Hey guys, it's Hart breaking down this 4-game NBA slate here for Sunday night on DraftKings. Going through some of my early look core plays, pivot plays, all that good stuff you can check out in the slate breakdown, as well as on my free Patreon link down below and on my Twitter at HartDFS. So make sure to hit that like button and let's get into the breakdown. Before getting into the breakdown, just want to recap the prize pick plays. They all smash. If you guys saw my prize pick YouTube picks, we went with 3. We went with DeRozan, Jimmy, Ayton, and they all smashed them. So a nice little clean sweep there. Fantastic night on prize picks. There won't be a prize picks video out for today's slate, but I'll get back to it for Monday's slate. Looking to continue that clean sweep there. Hopefully you guys tailed that. And then for a lineup review, I built my lineup around the fact that Jokic could be ruled out and that Trey could be ruled out. And then went with pretty much the free squares of Gabe Vincent and Dinwiddie. They are both a little bit disappointing there, especially Gabe Vincent. Wanted the Strus as value play there just because of those guards being ruled out for the Heat. Expecting big minutes from him. I think he did. He only played 24. Just didn't really do much. Not seeing a ton of minutes. I'm not sure why, especially with no Lowry and Victor Oladipo. You would think they need scoring off the bench. But he was disappointing. Jimmy was great there. Surprised he was that owned. Draymond was super low owned just because of the possible risk of them being rolled out. But I saw that they rolled in, had a lot of money left over, and went to him. Murray was great there. And then I had Jamal Murray here instead of Giddey based on the fact that Jokic could get ruled out. Once we got the news that Jokic is going to be in, I switched to Giddey there. Unfortunately, that game blew out. I mean, he still did great, but he could have had a huge game if that wasn't like a 40-point game the whole time. And then the Trey was ruled out, so I went to DeJounte, and then I took that shot on Bogdan just because the last game we saw where Trey was ruled out, Bogdan went for 42 fantasy points alongside DeJounte, who went for like 62. So I really like that pairing. Unfortunately, Bogdan didn't really do much. So, yeah, I mean, I can't complain about, getting into the cash once again. The winning lineup for this was 344. And as you can see here, Murray, Hero, Bridges, Butler, Hartenstein, Murray, Hart, and Green. So let's look to continue the success in tonight. Starting off this first game, Philadelphia versus the Knicks. We have Embiid here, 11-3, and Harden at 9-7. They both look fantastic in this game, in this matchup. Embiid's really cheap there, 11-3. Harden is a little bit riskier just because, he's going to get the minutes. It's just the shot attempts, right? Like, he really hasn't been too aggressive recently. 11 shots, 12, 10, 14, 13. Like, that's not a lot. Like, he's getting to the free throw line a decent amount, but he's having such low scoring games here, like 17 for 44.5 fantasy points, 17 for 36.5, 16 for 32.5. So I do like a bounce back spot here for Harden against the Knicks. He has a huge ceiling. It's just there's a lot of times where he's not aggressive, and that's the only downside of him. But I love both of them in this matchup. They should both be good to go. I don't think there's a need to chase Tyrese Maxey or Tobias Harris or Melton. Sure, you can land on them as like okay mid-range plays, like secondary options, but I think you really just stick with the main two. Moving on to the Knicks side, I think Randall looks great here at 10,000. Once again, he's just super consistent. Should see about 40 minutes, can do a little bit of everything. So he always makes for a very solid spin-up play. Brunson, his price came down, and he's coming off a huge game. 41 real-life points. I mean, he's been on a tear the past 4 games. 29, 26, 37, 41. So I don't mind getting into him. I don't love the price tag, but he's just been super aggressive, and he's been really good recently. So you can definitely do it. I just prefer getting to Randall or getting down to Barrett once again, who's seen, great minutes past 2 games. That's a big question mark with Barrett is he going to see the minutes? Like, he got benched there for the fourth quarter in overtime against LA. Brooklyn only played 31, 33 against Cleveland. So his minutes are all over the place. But if he's going to see 40 at that price tag, he's definitely too cheap. Obviously, you can have low floor games even in 40 minutes, but I do like Barrett a good amount here at 6,400. That's a nice contrarian pivot play off of Brunson and Randall, who should be decently popular today. Quickly coming off the bench, he makes for an okay value play. I don't think you need to get to him. Grimes, same thing, solid value play, should play the minutes. You just hope he hits his shots. Hartenstein, it'll be interesting to see how many people chase him. Sims should start. A lot of foul trouble risk for Sims, and there's going to be a lot of foul trouble risk for Hartenstein. He's a guy who, as you can see, 5'4", gets in a lot of foul trouble, has been great the past 4 games. I think people are going to chase here. It's a solid price tag. I don't mind if you land on him, but if he's going to be like 25, 30+% owned in this matchup, having a guard Embiid, I don't love it. So really, I don't like the plays of Sims and Hartenstein. Even though they're okay value, you could go to them. I just don't trust them in this matchup. I think a lot of people are going to chase Hartenstein. Moving on to Toronto, I love Pascal. Fantastic matchup here versus Memphis. He's been god-awful, as you can see, 34, 33. So he had that 60-point game. He is on a nice stretch there, 55, 46, 60, and then he just fell off a cliff. Like, the minutes are there. The usage is still there. He's just not scoring the ball well. Like, he's not getting to the free throw line. 21 real-life points, 24, 19, 21, 23, 34 fantasy points, 33, 23, 41, 39. He's just been bad. Just really been bad there at 9,000. I do expect people to go to him in the spot here. It's a solid matchup. He's been terrible. I like buying low on players, and he's a guy who has 60, 70 plus upside. So I love Pascal here today. Would not be surprised if he goes out there and scores 25 fantasy points in the whole game and absolutely screws us. But I'm taking that stand. I love him today. Fred VanVleet's been fantastic. So if you want a guy who's been super hot recently, it's been Fred. Another one of those guys where he gets minutes, the usage just really needs to hit those shots to pay off his price tag. So I don't mind him there. Scotty Moore is a secondary play alongside Gary Trent Jr. Like, maybe I prefer getting to Gary Trent Jr., even though he's more scoring dependent just because of the price tag. But yeah, I mean, they're decent secondary options. Still prefer getting to Siakam or VanVleet. Precious at that price tag, he's just there. He has upside. Minutes have come down a little bit the past 2 games, so he's not like a must play anymore at that price tag. He's just more of a solid secondary option. Boucher at the price, I still think he's viable. As you can see, he's very productive when he's out there. Not seeing a ton of minutes, but a flat 4,000. I'd rather get to him than a Hartenstein. So I do like Boucher, and that's really it. Koloko did see some minutes last game, but I think that was mostly due to some foul trouble on the Toronto big side. Moving on to Memphis here. Ja, 10-2, looks great. He should be good to go. If he's out, obviously you're going to want to lock in Tyus Jones. Then we're going to get to Desmond Bane, even a Triple J if he plays. But yeah, right now, Bane and Morant look great there at their price tags. Triple J, if he's in or out, we could go to whoever starts for him. Santi did great last game, starting from 4,100. I don't mind getting back to him. It's just, he could bust. He'd be like a solid value play. I don't think he's a must play. I do think people are going to chase that huge game. If Triple J's in, then really I still just prefer getting to Morant and Bane. But Triple J, does have that upside in tournaments. Brooks is out. Steven Adams was out. So that means most likely we'll get Tillman starting again, 4-4. He's a decent play there. Don't mind it. The minutes aren't great. Brandon Clark will get some minutes as well. His minutes have ticked up a little bit that last game. So he's definitely there as like a contrarian GPP play if you want a piece from this Memphis side. That's not one like the main guys. And then I do expect Conchar to start here, 3,500. He's going to be super, super popular. He's a guy who will go out there and get you like 12 fantasy points. But if he's going to see mid-20s, maybe into the 30s minutes, I do really like him there at 3,500. He's going to be a very popular value play today. But with no Brooks starting, he should be in the starting lineup. And he's a guy who can get a little bit of rebounds, steals, can hit some threes. So I think he's a very solid value play. And then you could definitely take a shot on the Tyus Jones there, 4,200. Saw 24 minutes. He should see mid-20s. Usually, there's a lot of times where he's not aggressive, even if they are down a few people and they need some scoring. But I don't mind him there as like a pivot play off of like a Conchar if you still want like a decent value play on the Memphis side. Moving on to the Pelicans and the Kings. Great game environment here. Sabonis, 10-5. He looks very, very solid. Harrison Barnes, don't mind him. Herter, still really good there at 5-5. Malik Monk up to 5-2. I think he's still a solid play, but I prefer getting to Herter. Murray's there at 5,000. And then Davion Mitchell. What is that stat line? 22 minutes, 5 fantasy points. Now, I think a lot of people are not going to play him in this spot here just because of how badly they got burned in that last spot. I don't mind it. In DFS, you need to have a short-term memory. Completely forget what happened in the slate before because he can definitely go out there and get you 15, 20, 25 fantasy points if he actually is aggressive, gets some steals, rebounds, actually scores. So I think he's still a very solid value play. Obviously, he has a very, very low floor, but if people are going to hop off him just because one bad performance, I mean, he's had bad performances when he started the season, but there's always that chance he can go off. So I do like him a decent amount there at 3-3 as a nice value play, but not a core play for me as of right now. I really just would like to stick to Herter or Sabonis, and then Barnes, Monk, Murray all look pretty solid as well there because people are going to have to score with Fox being out. Moving on to the Pelicans, CJ, Brandon Ingram, too cheap here for both of them. I prefer getting to Brandon Ingram just because he's been a little bit better at the peripheral stats recently. He's rebounding the ball, he's getting assists, and he's scoring the ball, 26, 35. So I like Brandon Ingram here. Not sure why he's this cheap. He's going to be super popular at that price tag, but I think it's one of those guys kind of lock and load. J-Val's questionable. He missed the rest of the game last game. So if he's out, we're going to get Larry Nance there at 4,700, probably starting. They could also start Hernan Gomez. So there's going to be some decent value options at the center play. I assume Hernan Gomez gets the center run behind Larry Nance. So I like both of them a good amount there. And then you could always take that shot on Jackson Hayes. He'll get dusted off, probably play mid-teens to maybe low 20s minutes as well. So he's a decent value. But yeah, good amount of interest on the Pelicans side. They're all pretty cheap. Moving on to Denver. I wouldn't be surprised if the Denver guys get ruled out. They were questionable going into last night's game. Now on the end of a back-to-back, I could definitely see them ruling out Jokic and Gordon and possibly Murray. So this could be a game here in a spot where you kind of build your lineup around the fact that these guys may all be ruled out, and we'll go to the value pieces. But right now, we haven't got the injury news or that news yet, so we had to act like they're going to be playing. And so yeah, Jokic looks great here. Fantastic spot, 11-4. Love him as a spend-up play. The spend-up plays on this slate are very, very cheap. 11-4 for Jokic and 11-3 for Embiid. Usually they're like high 11s, even like the 12K range. So both of them are very, very cheap. Jamal Murray, 8,000. He's been fantastic. I've been talking about him all season, how he's going to get back into form, and he really has the past 2 weeks. So I like the hot streak there. Aaron Gordon's always like a decent contrarian option in the mid-range. Porter Jr. is just there. He has a little bit of upside. KCP is questionable. If he's out, Brown should move into the starting lineup for him. He'd be an okay value play. He actually did very solid against Atlanta. But yeah, he'd be a solid value play at the flat minimum price tag. And that's really it. It's really just kind of waiting on to see if those value pieces or if those starters are going to rest, because then we can get to the value pieces on the Denver side. And then moving on to Minnesota here. Anthony Edwards looks great at 9.9 as a spin-up play. Everything's there for him. Just hope he hits his shots. D'Lo coming off a huge game there, 58 fantasy points. A little bit riskier at 7.2. Don't mind him. I think he's a decent secondary option. Big news is Gobert and Kyle Anderson. If Gobert's out, obviously we're going to want to load up on Naz Reid. If Anderson's out, it's just more minutes for a guy like Jaden McDaniels, who looks decent. They'll dust off Torian Prince at 3,400. He should be a decent value play there. He's super aggressive shooting the ball. Can get some peripheral stats as well, so I don't mind him. They'll probably give some more minutes to Jalen Noel off the bench as a scorer. They'll probably look to maybe Wendell, Knight. They might get a little weird with that. Maybe they give Luke Garza some minutes, but we'll kind of have to see with that injury news there. Obviously, I think for me, I'm personally going to build around the fact that I'm going to lock in Contract, going to lock in Ingram, going to lock in Pascal, and then I'm going to build my lineup around the potential of this Denver and Minnesota game, getting a bunch of injury news with like Jokic, Gobert, all that stuff. So that's kind of how I'm going to build my lineup for tonight. Make sure to stay updated with me on Twitter at HeartDFS. Hit that like button and check out my free Patreon where I'll talk more in depth about kind of how I'm building my lineup and my core building blocks once we get more news. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.